guys. I hope you're having a great day. I just wanted to come to you right now, to you and your parent, and give you all some great um, strategies, some prompts and cues that can be provided to target language skills. So, my earlier two videos provided prompts and cues that would target articulation skills, but a lot of my students are working on language skills as well. So, I'm going to kind of try to break that down into some categories and give you some good ideas of how you can help your student elicit the correct response. So a lot of my students are working on comprehensions, and you may have seen comprehension packets come home with them. They work on this in speech as well, and they're working on this in their classroom. It's a huge skill that they need in all areas of academics. So some things that we try to work on in speech when we are working on comprehension is we always read the questions before we read the passage. That is a very important skill, and that's something they should all know, is to make sure you read the questions before you read the passage. Also, we try to read one paragraph at a time, especially in our informational text. And while we're reading those paragraphs, we will try to underline or highlight, if they have a highlighter, things that we think may be important. We try to remember those questions we read first, and if we see those key details or key words that are also in our questions, we will highlight that very quickly. That way, when we do go to answer the questions, if we can't remember, we can come back and quickly glance through the highlighted text. I also encourage my students to narrow the questions down. We always do a narrowing down. We do a mark out. Things that we completely know are not correct, we mark those out first, and then we go from there. So I always have them narrow the choices down. If you are working with your child on comprehension questions and they just cannot get it, they have read the questions first, they have highlighted the passage, they went back and read their highlighted text, and they're still having difficulty, you as a parent can narrow the choices down for them. So you probably know which question is correct and the other ones are incorrect. Narrow down some of those incorrect answers for them. That way they'll have a better chance of getting it correct. Also, a lot of my kids are working on WH questions, and several of you probably had WH questions sent home in your packet. When we were working on WH questions, if my student is having a difficult time answering the WH questions, I will try to provide them with two verbal choices. So if the question is something simple, that is, who helps put out a fire? If they cannot come up with the correct response of a firefighter, I will give them two verbal choices, and I will try to make them as closely related as possible. So I'll say a firefighter or a police officer. Those are in the same field. They're very closely related. They're going to have to try to inference in there a little bit to get the right answer. If they have difficulty with the choices being very closely related, I will give them two choices that are not related at all. So maybe I would say a firefighter or a teacher. So that's how I would do that. Usually, if they're having difficulty and cannot come up with the correct answer when I give two verbal choices, I would give two visual choices. You may not be able to do that at home, so I would stick with the verbal choices to help them obtain the correct answer. The other thing I want to talk about before we go is categories. A lot of you have probably received in your home correspondence packet speech work that deal with categories, because several of my students are working on categories as their language skill. So whenever we are looking around, whenever we are trying to find objects or people or animals that fit into a specific category I have provided to them, if they can't get it, I really encourage them, look around your world for answers, look around a room, look outside, really try to look for visual cues around the space that you're in to try to help you answer that question. If they're still having difficulty, I may add one object. So if I say provide objects, people in the category of occupations, and they are really having a hard time, and I'm like, look around your environment, look around your world. Do you see anybody with an occupation? I'll add one first. I would say, well, a teacher, that is an occupation. And then usually that will help them get going what they need to say. The other thing you can do with categories is provide two verbal choices, just like you do with WH questions. If they can't add another occupation, say what would be something that you could add on to teacher. Would it be a firefighter or would it be a zebra? Something very, not related. That way they would understand that, hey, it would be a firefighter. That's something I can do when I grow up. So this is just some cues, prompts to help you with the language homework that I provided in the home correspondence packet. I hope it helps, and I will see you soon.